Hey y'all, welcome to Simply Made Homestead. I'm Marian and we are back in the kitchen today and it is all about sourdough. That's right, this is part of our sourdough series. We just started last week on how to make a sourdough starter, and today is our sourdough bread tutorial, plain and simple. You won't believe how easy it is, and I just can't wait to show you. All right, now to get started, we will need a little bit of equipment. I do use Knead mixer here. It's the Pro Series because we do make, my recipe is a double batch or a double loaf, and so I needed the bigger bowl to be able to accommodate the amount of bread that I'm making. Now if you have a smaller KitchenAid or a hand mixer, just split the recipe in half and you'll have the one loaf. But I will leave a link to it below in the description box and if you want to just check it out. All right, now this is a you can't do without. I think I paid like 20 bucks for this. I'll link it for you as well. You need a scale and it will show you the pounds and it will show you the grams. You can just hit the unit there and it will take you to pounds or to grams, and because we will be weighing all of our stuff. Our ingredients for today, we're going to need 3 flours. We'll need all-purpose, bread flour, and rye. Rye, you don't have to use the rye, but it gives this extra little flavor to your bread that people, I sell it at market all the time, and people are asking, your bread is so good. I've eaten sourdough before, but what is different about yours? And it's that little bit of rye. So make sure you get that. I get my rye from Azure Standard, and I grind it myself, so I'll leave you a link to Azure. Is it Azure? Azure? It's Azure. Azure. I'll leave you a link to Azure Standard below in the description box. To get started, we are going to need, oh, one more thing. Now you will notice that my starter is in a bowl. Okay, so once you have, if you follow my recipe on making your own sourdough starter, you feed it twice a day, right? Okay, so the day you plan to make your sourdough bread, take everything out of the jar that morning. At your 9 or 10 o'clock feeding, 8 o'clock feeding, whatever time schedule you have, take it all out of the jar. We're not throwing any away. Take it all out, put it in a bowl, however much, and weigh it. Make sure you add the same amount of water and the same amount of flour, all-purpose flour, to the amount of starter that you have. Like for myself, I had 199 grams of starter, I added 199 grams of filtered room temperature water, 199 grams all-purpose flour, mixed it up, covered it up, sat it in the cabinet, and now look at it. Isn't that beautiful? Just beautiful. And then I wait about 8 hours later. So whatever time that was for you, wait about 8 hours later, pull your bowl out, because we will need 360 grams of starter. And I did that, I made extra in the morning because I want to be sure and have some left to be able to continue my starter. So we're going to add, got to zero out your scale, make sure it's on gram, put your bowl on, zero it out, and then we're going to bring it down to 360 grams. Zero out your scale. Make sure you always bring it back to zero before you add another ingredient. We're going to add 600 grams of water. All right, now if you go over a little bit, just take a spoon, spoon it out, which is what I'm fixing to do. I just spoon it out because you want to be right at 600 grams. Now I just want to remind you, if you haven't seen the sourdough starter tutorial, to make sure to have quality bread or quality flour is extremely important. Now I do grind my own rye, but I do have wheat berries that I had ordered from literally a bread mill or a flour mill, and I ground it. I didn't like it, so I haven't used it. I've been still using my King Arthur, but I did try to go to wheat berries. I just haven't found the right place yet. The flours that I use are King Arthur flours, and I use the all-purpose and the bread from King Arthur. I have tried the cheaper flours. Do not do it. Don't waste your effort, your money, your time. Go ahead and spend a little bit more. It's not much more, a little bit more for the King Arthur. It is so worth it. And my rye, I ordered it from, like I told you, as your standard, and I love it. So it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. Now we want to go ahead with a spatula and just mix around, just kind of incorporate your starter and your water. And also, another thing, if you have not seen the starter, the sourdough starter tutorial, make sure, be sure, very, very important, that all of your flours and your water is room temperature, okay? Everything needs to be the same temperature. And about between 70 and 75 degrees is a really good place to be. All right, so be sure and zero it out. Now, we are going to add 510 grams of all-purpose flour. And if you get a little extra, it's all piled up there, so it's not in the water. You just pull it out and stick it back in your jar. There you go. Okay. All right. And we're going to add 408 grams of bread flour. Ooh, Lord, I didn't hit zero. Don't do that. Don't do what I just did. Okay, make sure you hit zero. Zero the scale out. We're going to add how much? 408. All right, 400. Oops, it etched up. 410. You have to watch it. We have our all-purpose, our bread. Zero out the scale. There you go. And we're going to add 102 grams of rye, which will bring us to 1,020 grams of flour total. You're probably wondering, what about the salt? Well, we're not going to add the salt just yet. First, we're just going to incorporate all of our ingredients just to make them moist. So we're going to put our bowl in the mixer, and we will use our bread hook here. And whenever I am kneading my dough, I always use about a number 2 on the mixer. Okay. Now we are only going to incorporate, literally, we're going to watch this, and as soon as it comes together, literally for like a minute. But as soon as it comes together, we're going to stop. We're not going to really beat it and get it all mixed in. We just want all the flour moist and the water and the flour just brought together. Now you can see mine here. It's still ragged. There's some stuck to the sides, and that's fine. That's exactly where we want it. So now we're gonna just cover it with a tea towel, and we're gonna let it rest for 30 minutes. So make sure you set your timer, and then we're gonna come back and do our next step. 30 minutes has passed, so now it's time to remove the tea towel, and we will add 26 grams of salt. Now I use kosher salt. It's what I prefer to cook with. So if you'd rather use like a pink Himalayan or sea salt, you can certainly do that here. And we are going to turn the mixer back on, take it to a number 2 on the side here. It's a slow knead, and we're going to knead it for 3 minutes. Now, the reason we only knead it for 3 minutes is because it's sourdough. It does its own thing. You should be able to look at it now after sitting there after 30 minutes, and it looks different. And you'll see later on how it just kind of grows, and it develops itself. You don't have to knead it for 15 minutes like you do regular white bread or lots of other breads. So let's get it started. 3 minutes has passed, so now it's time to get our bowl set up here. Now I use this Tupperware bowl. Typically I would get this ready while this is blending, but you wouldn't be able to hear me. So I waited till now. So anyway, I have this, I don't know how many, It's a nice big 2.5 gallon Rubbermaid. Now I will link this below for you as well. And because the reason I use this is because you do have 2 loaves of bread here that you're working with, and I've tried using a big bowl, and you'll see in a minute how we're going to fold the bread. The bowl just makes it difficult to do. You can do it, but it just makes it difficult. But anyway, this is my preferred method. Now I just drizzled some olive oil. You saw that, right? And we're going to rub it all around, and I even rub it all over the bottom and all over the sides, because our bread is going to rise and we don't want it sticking anywhere. Now you will be glad you have an oily hand. It comes in handy just pulling this dough off the hook here. Taking it off the hook. There we go. This is a dough scraper. And when I ordered my bannetons, which are our proofing baskets that we will be using shortly, when I ordered them, this came with it. And I've looked on Amazon and I found lots on there. Most of the time they always include this with the bannetons, which I will leave you a link in the description as well for the bannetons, and make sure that it includes the dough scraper, because it is just so much help. I'm going to show you the bowl in just a minute after using this thing. But anyway, we're just going to scrape our dough off into the Rubbermaid thingy here. See? Look at that. You see that? It gets all the goodies. There we go. All right, now here you want to grab one side of the dough like that, and you'll just pull it up as far as you can, but you don't want your dough to rip. And then you fold it over. Spin it around, grab the other side, stretch it as far as it can go, and then pull. You want to stretch it over. All right? And then we're going to do the same thing to the ends. Stretch it and fold. It's real important not to tear your dough. We're building structure to our sourdough. We're putting all kinds of lovely air bubbles and things in there, but we're building the structure, so you don't want to rip it. You want to nice and gently pull it, but pull it as far as you can, and then fold it over. And then turn it over, and you'll see the smooth side on top. We're going to put the lid on top, and we're going to set our timer for 50 minutes. And then we'll come back to it, and we're going to do the same thing again. All right, guys. I have plugged this little snippet into the beginning of this video because I forgot to tell you in the beginning of the video, and it's not something I want to leave out. Be sure and stick around to the end, because I have some really good info to help you keep your sourdough going without having to feed it twice a day. All right, 50 minutes has passed. Forgive the mess behind me on the stove. It's in the evening and we had to eat. But anyway, so here we are, and we've made our first turn originally when we first put this in here. So this will be our second turn after 50 minutes, and we're just going to grab the end once again, and you can see how much it's spread and how, you see how puffy it is? It's, oh yeah, it's building all those beautiful bubbles you see in sourdough. Yes. That's what we're creating here. Grab the other, then turn it around, grab the other end, pull it up, don't want to rip, and fold it over. Turn it to the side, and we'll do the same thing. Just like that. To the side. And there we go. All right, and then we just turn it back over, flip it again. You see it? There it is. It's getting bigger. Nice and puffy. We're going to put the lid back on. And another 50 minutes. Set your timer. 50 minutes has passed again. This is turn 3, and we're going to take one end of our dough, pull it, stretch it, and fold. Take the other end, pull it, stretch it, turn. See that? Turn it to the side. We just fold it like a, I don't know, towel. We're making a present. Pull it. It's getting super thick, so it's not as easy to pull. It's really, it's building structure. It's yeah, it's looking good. Look how big and fluffy. All right, so we're going to cover it again. Now remember, this was turn 3. This was our final turn. So next, we're going to set our timer for another 50 minutes, and then we come back. We're going to take our bread out, and we're going to start forming our loaves. So, see you soon. So now it's time to turn it out onto the counter, and it's just a clean counter. You can throw a little bit of flour down. We don't want much. We really don't want much at all, okay? Just tiny little sprinkles. I'm going to just put it out there like that. And we'll take our dough scraper and we're going to cut it in half. Now, if this bread were for sale, like for the farmer's market, or I was making it for somebody, I would take each one and I would weigh it. But since it's for us here at home, I'm not going to do that. Now you will see here, this is where this dough scraper really comes in handy, where you can get under the bread. Now with sourdough, you're always very gentle. You are never rough, you're always very gentle. And like with bread, you know, you're pulling and pushing and just manipulating the bread all over the place. With sourdough, you do not want to do that. Always very gentle. So we're just going to roll this over itself like that, and then we're going to pull this around, and we're just going to continue pulling it, not hard, just we're going to make it kind of into a little ball like that. You see that? Just kind of wrapping it around, and it's sticky, okay? And then you just grab it. Let me get this one out of the way. You see how I just folded it? I'm just folding it, the sides, and I'm creating a ball with it, and then just roll it over on itself. Okay, now this one right here. All right, now this one right here, I'm just going to pull and then turn. Pull and then turn. And that tightens it up. Pull and turn. And I'm just going to keep doing that a few times, not too terribly many, and then just kind of, and when I roll it, I just kind of tuck the edges under. And you see that? You see that nice ball there? Do you see the bubbles? Ooh, it's going to be nice. All right, and then we'll just sit it off to the side. And I'm going to add a little flour down here just to put underneath, to go underneath that, okay? Because we're going to sit it off to the side and we're going to let it rest. Now this one we'll do the same thing. We'll pull, pull, just like that. Keep working it around a little bit. Those nice, big, beautiful bubbles. See, this loaf right here, I think is going to be a little bit bigger. I never do eyeball it well, but that's okay. And sit it off to the side. Okay, now I'm going to sprinkle a little flour over the top. All right, so now we've just sit it off to the side, and we're going to cover it up with a tea towel and let it rest for 15 minutes. And next, when we come back, we're going to prepare our proofing baskets, and then we'll form our dough, we'll shape our loaves, and get them ready to start their fermentation. While our bread is resting, it's a good time to get our baskets ready because next we'll be shaping our loaves, and we need our baskets ready for the loaves to go in there. These are our proofing baskets. This is where we'll let our bread rise and all that beautiful fermentation go on. Oh yeah. So we need to get them well floured so the dough won't stick to them. These baskets, they do come with these little covers, these little inserts here. I have taken them out and put the bread in the basket because I love the little lines that it makes on the bread. It's really pretty. But these little baskets are a real pain to clean. So if any of you out there watching this has a tip or trick on how to clean these baskets that makes it where it's not so hard, let me know, because I do love the look of it. But kind of going back to these things, because you can take them off, throw them in the wash, and you're golden, right? So anyway, let's get on with it and let's get these things floured. Now, this is going to look like too much flour, and it's really not, because the sourdough bread has a lot of moisture in it. So I put a lot of flour in there, and I just go around and I pull it up on the sides of the baskets, and I really just get it all in there really good. And I make a mess. But if there wasn't a mess in the kitchen, then you could tell I hadn't been in here. Now that is well floured. See, and it pretty much, once you rub it all into the fabric, it just about disappears. You can see it there, okay? Now I'm just gonna, like any excess, take it over into the other one. See, there was not much excess. So I'm gonna add a little bit more to this one, get it all rubbed in all around the basket really, really well. And this just puts a nice coating, and it keeps your bread from sticking to your basket. So it's a really good thing. Okay, our baskets are ready. And now it's time to shape our loaves. So we'll pick up our round and we'll just turn it over, okay? We're not gonna add flour because we want our dough to stick to itself while we're shaping it. Now, if your dough is a little stiff, which this is a little bit, you can leave it for another 15 minutes. And it's very gently, okay? Now, you see how I've just kind of mushed it around, kind of spreading it out a little bit. I'm going to take the top part, and I'm going to kind of jiggle it and pull it out, and then I'll pull it over and like that, okay? And then we'll take this over and over. It's kind of almost like braiding, like that. All right, pull the end up like that, and just keep folding and tuck and fold. And it's never hard. You don't do a lot of pulling or anything like that, okay? Just like that. And then just kind of grab the ends, pinch them together, and I do like to roll mine over to make sure that everything is stuck together really, really well. Now, another step that I do just to ensure that I don't stick to the inside of the basket, probably gonna wish I hadn't put that right there, but we're gonna make do, is just roll it in some flour once I get my loaf formed. Just like that. Okay? And then we'll just take our basket and seam side up. We don't want the seam side down, because tomorrow we're going to flip these baskets. We'll flip our bread out and the top will be where it needs to be. So right now we want to gently place it in our basket with the seam side up, just like that. Okay? And now we're going to go on to our other one. And I have to get this because I don't want a lot of flour on my dough, because we want it to be able to stick together. All right. Now this one, once again, just kind of, I'm not punching it, I'm just kind of pushing it. You don't want to knock the air out of it. That's where you get all those lovely, lovely bubbles, or holes, not bubbles, but the lovely, lovely holes inside of your bread. pull it out. And then here we're gonna braid or weave, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. And then just pull it bottom up, tuck, over, tuck, over, tuck. And I kind of hold the ends in and just keep tucking and pulling. And when you feel that bottom come to it, kind of pinch it together. Because our goal is to get all the seams pinched together so our beautiful rolled bread here does not come apart. Now you can see, I don't know, is it just me, but this one looks a little bigger. But that's okay, it'll work. So I'm going to put a little bit more down there. Want to get nice and floured. I've tried like putting the flour in containers and doing it and all like that. It's just like, I don't know. Can't get your hands in there. It's hard to flip it around. This way it just makes it a lot easier. Oh yeah, this is definitely a bigger loaf. This one's going to be massive. But isn't it beautiful? Look at that. Just gorgeous. All right, so next we're going to take our plastic shopping bags that we have saved from all of our trips to the store. You know those plastic bags that you save for whatever reason? Well, here we go. We're going to place our bread inside the bag, and then you'll just tie it over just like that. All right, the bread is in the bag. We just need to sit it to the side and let it sit out on the counter for about an hour. Then stick it away in the fridge for the night and let it sit in there and ferment, and it will grow and rise a little bit, and it will just be absolutely beautiful. Well, here we are. We made it till the morning, and it's time to take our bread out of the refrigerator. You see I've already done that here, and add it to the oven. Now, before you pull your bread from the fridge, wait till the very last minute to pull your bread from the fridge, because we want it nice and cold when it hits that really hot oven. Now, in my oven, I have a pizza stone, which is what I like to bake my bread on. It just helps to create a real crispy crust. It's really hot, and it just really helps to distribute that heat, and just it's just a beautiful thing. So, but an hour before you plan to bake your bread, turn your oven on 500 degrees. Now this is only if you're using the pizza stone. And the reason is because it takes the pizza stone time to build up all the heat within the stone. Now if you're using some other method, then you can just set your oven to 500, and then when it heats up you can stick your bread in there. But this is my preferred method. Once you get your oven to 500 degrees, after it's been in there, now I'll turn it on, and 45 minutes later, I'll go and pull my bread out of the refrigerator, and I'll start prepping it, getting it ready for the oven, and go ahead and pop it in there. So now you can use one of these thingies, these pizza, forget what they call them. I know y'all, I forget the name of everything. But anyway, you can use this. I have tried this. Sometimes my dough's a little moisture, and it's not my preferred method, okay? But you can use this if you're comfortable with these, and that's something that you have on hand you would like to do. I prefer parchment paper. I just cut out or pull off 2 little sheets, and I just round the edges because they're just out flopping in the wind, and I don't know. It's just my thing. You don't have to do that either, but I prefer the parchment paper. Now, this is what I do. All right, we'll take 1 loaf out, and you need to work quickly because you do want your bread into the oven. Like I said, the colder, the better. Now you see my loaf? You saw how it was last night? It has puffed up. You don't want, it's not going to be this huge rise like you get on regular bread. It's going to do a lot of its rising in the oven. So, but you can touch it. Let me bring you in close. All right, give it a minute to focus. See, you can see how it springs back. There you go. Oh, we know it's ready. It is ready. Now, if it has proofed up and it's kind of starting to come over your basket, it has been in there too long. That's overproofed. And lots of times it kind of flattens in the oven. So, all right. So I'm going to get both of my breads out there, working quickly. You can see this is my bigger loaf. Big and beautiful it is. Yes, ma'am. Okay, now, get these guys out of the way. All right, now I have this little shaker here that I use. You don't have to use that. You can use a little strainer. I should have put my apron on. You can use a little strainer. You can use anything you can, whatever you have. But I coat my bread, just kind of give it a dusting of flour. And this helps with your scoring. It helps the blade move through the bread a little easier. And then just nice and quick. Your hands are warm. We don't want to heat up the dough. So nice and quick, okay? All right, now we're going to take our bread lame. I'll leave a link to this below for you as well. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby. I'll look for a link. And if I find one where they sell them online, I will link it for you in the description. To score your bread, we're going to keep it, this is my basic scoring. I do not know how to do all that fancy stuff that people do. We can get a little fancy with it, but all the flours and stuff like that, I absolutely love them, but I'm just, yeah, don't know how. So we're going to keep it basic today, okay? All right, so start at the top and you just lightly score. And it's not hard. It's very intimidating when you first start because you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but just light little touches. And you saw how I went down one side and then down the other. Here, let's do this other one on with the same pattern. Like that. You see I'm just lightly. And it's, you know, it will just scoring to make it pretty. Now this right here will be to help the bread to open up and to rise. So we're going to go a little bit deeper. We want to go about halfway down the side there. And my blade's a little dull. Y'all forgive me. I forgot to go buy more. And you don't want to go real deep here either, but you do want to go deeper than you do on this. This is just the design. This is where we want to open up. All right. So again, I'm right-handed, so I have to go this way, guys. And then go down and bring it around, just like that. And you see how it kind of caught with wrinkles? That always kind of freaks me out, like, oh, I'm gonna make it ugly. But see, it always turns out beautiful. Okay, so now we are going to, you need a nice big baking pan in the bottom of your oven. It's just this really old pan. I use it just for water and for adding water to for my bread. And we're going to add a big pitcher like this. I'm going to add a pitcher of hot water to the bottom of it after I get the bread in the oven. And that creates all this lovely moisture and condensation in there and keeps the outside nice and soft where it can grow and expand in the oven. So I'm going to get my water started while I load up the oven. All right, now the bread is in the oven. And now I'm going to add a pitcher of hot water to the bottom tray, and I'm going to close it really quick because we don't want to lose any of that moisture. All right, now that the bread is nice and snug in the oven and we've added our water to the bottom pan, we need to turn our temperature down to 475 and let it bake for 15 minutes. So be sure and set your timer for 15 minutes. Now, after 15 minutes has passed, we will remove that hot pan of water, so you have to be very, very careful. Make sure you don't fill it up really full, okay? No more than half full, so you got wiggle room when you're trying to get that hot pan of water out of the oven. So once you do that, then we will rotate our bread, stick it back in the oven, and let it cook for another 8 minutes. And then once again, what I like to do, after 8 minutes, turn the bread once more, and just so it can help to get it a really nice even bake for another 7 minutes, 7-8 minutes. They are out of the oven, and I have to use my mitts because they are super, super hot. Look at that. See how it just expanded there? Now, you see how it kind of, and I'm just bad about doing this. This is I cut my line a little low. I should have come up. You want it just to the outside of the center, your line that will open up the bread. And I'm really bad about coming over here on the side. So I do wish I had come up a little bit, but you can see how it has expanded. And it's going to eat and cut and do everything just fine. It's not a big deal. It's just an aesthetic kind of thing. It's always best to let your bread cool completely before cutting. But since this is a sourdough bread tutorial, how can we not cut into the bread to be able to see the inside? We're going to do that now. Because, you know, oh my gosh, do you hear that? And what's better than hot bread? Not much. Oh, do you see how crispy and crusty the outside is? Because once we take the water out of the oven, it allows that crust to crisp up like that. Oh, look at the steam. And look at that. All right, I'm going to bring it in close. That one's got an outside crumb on it. It's not as pretty. But look at that. Is that not delicious? Do you see the steam? Isn't that beautiful? All right, there you have it. A nice, big, beautiful loaf of sourdough bread. Plain and simple. And it is going to be yummy. I'm going to slice off a big chunk of it. And you see this butter? Do you see that? Big old slab of butter on there. Oh yeah, no jelly required. I promised you a little something at the end here about storing your sourdough starter. Depending on your family and your home as to how many times a week that you bake, for us it's like once a week. If you're going to use your starter on a regular basis, you can, like if it's going to be a few days, you could just feed it once a day, but right before you get ready to use it, I would give it that extra feeding, like twice a day, to really get it fed and get it growing, get it really good and yummy. But if it's going to be a week, like for me, I'm going to put my starter into the refrigerator today. And I use a bowl. You can use any kind of cap. Just don't tighten it. And I wouldn't use like the cloth over the top because it doesn't need that much air, but you just put a cap on it, but leave it loose where some air can get through there. But in 7 days, it does need to be fed. So like if you're not going to bake for 2 weeks or even a month, just every week, pull it out, feed it like you normally would, and put it back in the refrigerator. Now the day before I'm going to bake, I will pull the starter out in the morning and feed it again that night, and then the next morning I will feed it, take everything out of the jar and put it in a bowl and feed it so I can get more starter to have enough to bake the 2 loaves of bread. And then once I finish my baking, I'll get my regular 75 grams, I'll put that in a jar, I'll feed it and add it back to the refrigerator. Now before you add it to the refrigerator, do give it a little time to start growing. Not all day, just a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours, and then stick it in the refrigerator. All right, guys, I hope that helps. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a big old thumbs up. It really does help. And if you have any questions or comments, please be sure and leave them in the comment section below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button because we have more sourdough tutorials coming ahead, and I sure would love to have you with me. All right, guys, until next time, take care and God bless. And today it is our sourdough bread tutorial. And today is our sourdough bread tutorial, plain and simple.